Hello everyone and welcome back to another episode of Mr.E Things. Today we're talking about the Citizen Promaster Aqualand Depth-Guage watch, dive watch. So this is a very special watch in my collection as well because this is kind of where I moved from the more, it's right in between the analog, for example, like my Seiko Marine Master, which is fully mechanical, automatic, to a solar powered quartz analog watch with the hands, but it's more electronic in a sense. And then from there, later on, I moved completely to a smart dive watch. This is the Garmin Descent G1, and so that's full-on connectivity, depth gauge, notifications, all that kind of stuff. In the beginning, I was very die-hard about wanting to have a mechanical timepiece with me all the time, and to be honest, it just becomes much more convenient to have your dive log, everything all synced up in one little, all synced up in one thing ready to go. Okay, so let's get the specs out of the way. We have the Citizen. Actually, it comes with this silicone strap. It's really nice. It's a little bit thick and bulky. I really like it on the NATO, on the NATO, because I would clip on a little compass here on the bottom, so that way I had the depth meter and a compass as well when I was diving. Okay, so let's go ahead and talk through the specs real fast. We have a 46 millimeter case. I need to find I'll post the thickness on the screen now. Stainless steel case with a mineral crystal, but you can see that even with the mineral crystal, it's been, no scratches, no real marks on the body as well. It's held up really, really well. Yeah, of course, I would have preferred sapphire. I've heard things that sapphires don't charge or don't work well with solar charging as well. But then again, my Casio GWG B1000 is also sapphire, and that's also tough solar, so not sure about that. We have a 60 indent rotating unidirectional bezel, pretty standard with the dive watch. Usually it's a 120. This is you'll get one click per every minute, so not as precise as something like a Rolex or an Omega or the Seiko, but it works fine enough. Again, these it's not supposed to be super precise. It's just marking your elapsed time for the most part. And as standard, it's also rated to a 200-meter dive depth rating. It's a diver's 200-meter. That's a different certification from on your dress watch when it says it's 15 meter, 50 meter, 100 meter. To get the 200-meter diver certification, it's a more rigorous testing. So again, I think that 200 meters water resistance usually is overkill. I've dove with some old Casios that were maybe just 100-meter water resistant, and it was fine. It didn't have any problems. I just wouldn't push any buttons when I'm underwater. So what makes this watch so special is that it also has a depth gauge, which is this little module here. And what I really like about this Citizen specifically is that it has the same kind of design language as a traditional diver, like a Submariner or an Omega or the Marine Master here. But it also has the depth gauge feature, where Citizen has other depth gauge watches, but they're a little bit, they look like transformers. They look a little bit too extreme and busy, but they work well nevertheless. I like here that you have the depth gauge kind of hidden here along the chapter ring. So as you look at it straight on, you don't, it's kind of out of the way, but when you see around the edges, you can see that it's markings on the chapter ring for your depth. So let's just go through the hands real fast. Of course, you have the hour hand and the minute hand. very easy to differentiate because the style of the hand is different from your depth gauge. So even when you're looking at with just the lume, you can differentiate. And then we have here is your battery gauge, high, medium, low. It doesn't really, there's no graduations between those, so it's either at high, medium, or low, or empty. And then when you're actually, it has a sensor, so it senses when you're in the water, and you just need to make contact between the toes. It will show a ready sign. Let's see if I can get a, if I can, usually my hands are sweaty enough. Yeah, there you go. So it moves to ready. So that's if you were in the water and it was causing a connection between the sensor and the case, meaning that there's a, it's in the water, it would move to ready and it would start recording your dive. And the yellow hand is your current depth, and then I believe this pusher will show your last dive max depth. And so if I push that, you can see a little black hand comes out, also a distinct shape, so you're not going to confuse it with any other hand. And so like my last dive was to, oh, it's gone. Let me push that again. My last dive went to, where are you going? Uh-oh. Let's see. Okay, my last dive went to about 23 meters. You can see there. So yeah, pretty cool. Yeah, so I really like that it's recessed. You get 1 meter for every minute marker. So starting at the 0 here, this is 1 to 5, 5 to 10, 10 to 15. It goes all the way up to 70. Past 70, you're just going to get an over symbol. I've never dove past 35 meters, so as an advanced diver. So unless you're into technical diving where you're going, you know, way past that, you are probably using a dedicated dive computer. I mean, you're definitely using a dedicated dive computer nevertheless, even if you're doing recreational diving, actually. So you shouldn't really be diving with this. The only time I've dove with just this watch on is when I'm free diving sometimes, where you don't need to worry so much about you know, NDL and stuff. So yeah, so let's go through the pros and cons with my experience with the watch. The lume, straight off the bat, coming from the Seiko, the lume is not great. I do like that there's 2 different colors lume. So the lume for the actual dive hands is a different color from the time hands. The pip is decent, but on my review of the Marine Master, I talked about how the pip on the Marine Master is a separate shape, so it really differentiates itself from the circles on the watch face when you're looking at it in the dark, where this one is a circle pip and then circle hour markers, so it's easy to kind of lose. It kind of blends in, so I would like it if either this was a lot bigger or yeah, a different shape. But yeah, lume, not that great. When you're diving, you always have flashlights and you can recharge it with a flashlight as you dive, but yeah. I'm not a big fan of the 60 indents. It just seems a little bit coarse, but it does have a very snappy, you know, lock-in, which is nice. And the coin edge bezel of the bezel is also really, really nice and grippy. So yeah, no problems there. Some people might complain about the fact that the bezel is an aluminum insert and it's not like ceramic or, you know, something exotic like that. But to be honest, when I look at these old dive watches where the bezels are kind of worn in and scratched, I kind of like that look of patina, even though mine hasn't been getting scratched at all. And speaking of scratches, the crystal being mineral, not sapphire, still holds up fine. Yeah, for example, with talking about the bezel, like the ceramic bezel is never really going to show any signs of wear, maybe just dirt, I guess. But yeah, the ceramic isn't going to scratch. It could chip, I guess, if it got knocked. But yeah, so I don't know, maybe I'm overly, I don't feel careful with my watches, but yeah, there's no real markings or anything on here. yeah, so overall, I've been really happy with this watch. I think the only issue is that when I dive, um, I definitely 90, I mean, to be honest, 100% of the time I'm using a Garmin and I have another dive computer as a backup, but I'm pretty much just wearing this on the whole dive trip, and it's just so much more convenient. You have, I'll do a separate review on this, but you have the compass, um, you know, and you have the dive, and it syncs to your app on your phone, and so you don't need to fill in dive logs anymore. It just like automatically syncs, and then when you get back on the boat, if you lose your phone, you can like you know, you can have it ring your phone so you can find your phone. So it's really just, I mean, this kind of stuff is so convenient. But if I do choose to pick an analog watch to join me on my dives, I always end up picking my Marine Master. It's just, I don't know, I just feel more connected to the watch. I don't know. It's not the fact that this is digital that I don't, or like it's quartz that I don't like it, because I do feel connected to things like, now that I'm doing a lot more mountaineering, I really enjoy my Mud Master, but I think it's just, I mean, in the hands, I just feel way more connected to my Marine Master. It just feels nicer. Um, I can't seem to sell this watch because I just love the fact, I love the features of it, and I really applaud Citizen for all of their tool watches, like their flight watches, their version of like a Yacht Master. They have a lot of features, like the way the dials are set up. Like they still make a slide rule bezel on, I think, one of their Flight Master watches, and I think that's so cool. They're really they really bring, you know, all the features when it comes to a tool watch. But I think at the same time, just the quality wise, it just doesn't feel, you know, it just doesn't feel, I mean, I don't know. I think I'm biased. I just love my Marine Master. But again, these can be had for around $600 now. I think it's an older model, so they might be discontinued. I think they still sell the blue and red version, but yeah, I haven't seen this black one for sale in a long time. But yeah, that's just a quick review of this watch. I don't see a lot of people make reviews of this model. There's another Promaster that's really like chonky that people seem to do a lot of videos about, but yeah, I haven't seen this one, so I just want to put this out there for you guys. Yeah, if I would start all over again, gosh, if I wasn't so in love with my Marine Master, I would have loved to have this as my first dive watch, and then had it patina and accumulate scratches and stuff like that, because it's big, but when people ask you about the watch, it's like, when you explain what it can do, it's like, wow, that's pretty cool. You don't really see watches like this that can do things like that, meaning the depth gauge. And for example, when I used to fill out a book log of my dives, I can go up to the surface, and then I would fill in the dive time, which would be measured by the bezel. I mean, okay, I was in the water for 50 minutes or something. And then when I get on the boat, I would press this button and be like, okay, what was my max depth? My last dive, my max depth was 23 meters. Okay, cool. And then if I wanted to, I could reset the bezel and I can measure my elapsed time on the boat, stuff like that. So it's really cool. It's really cool. But I think it's just, these modern dive computers just do so much. Yeah. All right. Thank you for tuning in, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye-bye. Okay, here we are. Just to do a quick Lume check. I have both the Seiko Marine Master and the Citizen Promaster Aqualand depth gauge watch in the sun, just for maybe 90 seconds. Setting this up, and I'm going to close the blinds and we'll check out the Lume. Alright, you can see they're both fully charged, but from my eyes I can see that the Citizen is already starting to fade, but you can see here that the Citizen has the blue hands on the depth gauge, so you cannot see the depth gauge the meters, the markings, the numbers, but you know that at the 3 o'clock, which you can tell by the indices of the hours, that the 3 o'clock is a 0, and then goes the 5 meters, 10 meters, and at the 6 o'clock would be 15 meters. Oh, I'm pointing at it, but you can't see my fingers. But yeah, so without a flashlight, you are kind of able to understand where the depth is. So for example, if the blue hand was pointing at the 9 o'clock, you would know that that was a 30-meter depth. And let's see the hand on the bottom. Oh, I don't think the hand on the bottom would have charged because I had it's covering. So, but if I move that bottom hand, if I press this bottom left pusher, it should, if I can unscrew it. Okay, here we go. Yeah. So yeah, I didn't, that didn't charge because it was covered by the, hold on, let me just stick it out real fast. Okay. All right, so now it has a full charge. So even with this one recharging with the sun just right now, you can see that the Seiko is still brighter. You can see how the pip on the Seiko really stands out. So if I, rotated it, you automatically pick up where is that 12 o'clock marker for the starting the time, the pip on the Promaster. Where on the Citizen, if you're disoriented, stuff like that, you can kind of see how that dot kind of blends in with the other dots on the face. I know you're probably thinking like, oh, but it's pretty clear, right? But this is because it's completely blacked out and all you're seeing are the lume pips, where usually you're not this dark where you can't see completely nothing. And so you're having to pick it up among other things in the background as well. But if you just see like, okay, if you come up and you see the Promaster, boom, it's like you can really see, like it's clear as day where that pip is. And like my other Promaster video, you can see how there's that negative space at the 3 o'clock where there's no lume pip. But they have made a newer model where there is a lume at the 3 o'clock. But yeah, I still like this classic design. I don't know, maybe I'm biased because I already have this one, but I don't mind it. It's not that big of a deal to me. But yeah, it is kind of nice that Seiko seem to have listened to their users and have updated the later models to have a lume, a little pip at the 3 o'clock, similar to like what the Citizen has. There's a small, tiny little lume marker on the date window on the 3 o'clock. Okay, so yeah, that is the lume on the Citizen. And if you want to see the face again, this is what we're looking at. Okay, thanks guys.